I am Monique Whitfield, 32, and for as long as I can remember I've been cast as the family disappointment, the soft-hearted one, the failure, the charity case daughter who never quite figured it out. This year, like every year, we met in Hilton Head for our annual family trip. But this time, everything snapped. The lobby of the Sanctuary Resort was the kind of quiet luxury you don't have to shout about. Cool marble floors, towering palms, and chandeliers dripping glass like frozen rain. I rolled in with a single scuffed canvas suitcase and a black travel outfit still wrinkled from the delayed flight out of D.C. I was exhausted, 3 hours late, and already bracing myself. My family stood by the check-in desk like they owned the place. My father, Charles, 60, broad-shouldered golf, polo perfectly pressed, was barking orders at a bellhop. My mother, Lorraine, elegant in white linen, scrolled on her phone, mouth pulled into its usual tight line of irritation. And then there was my sister, Simone, 30, glowing, laughing too loudly at whatever her husband, Ryan, whispered in her ear. Ryan looked like he'd stepped directly out of a yacht catalog, East Coast prep, boat shoes, smug smile. Their 3-year-old son, Jadon, bounced around the luggage mountain of Louis Vuitton like an ad for generational wealth. I took a breath and approached. Sorry I'm late. I said softly. The flight from D.C. had maintenance issues. Lorraine sighed without looking up. You are always the last one, Monique. Always. We've been waiting for half an hour. Your father is impatient. Simone turned, her smile turning off the moment it landed on me. Her eyes ran over my outfit, my suitcase, my tired face. Oh, you made it, she said, flat. I was just telling Ryan I wasn't sure you'd be able to afford the flight. Not with that little save. The world job of yours. Ryan wrapped an arm around her shoulders, grinning. Be nice, babe. She's trying her best. To them, my job at Tech for Hope was a punchline. In their heads, I spent my days in a church basement handing out refurbished laptops for minimum wage. They never asked what I really did. They never asked about the algorithms, the logistics platforms, the grants, the contracts. Nonprofit was all they needed to hear to decide I'd failed. My father finally turned to me, not with warmth, but with the cool scan of a man inspecting a disappointing investment. You're here, good, he said. We've been waiting. I said I was sorry, Dad. The airline. He cut me off with a dismissive wave. Excuses are a sign of disorganization. Then, without another glance at me, he turned back to the desk. Charles Whitfield. We have reservations. The concierge smiled professionally. Yes, Mr. Whitfield. One oceanfront suite for you and Mrs. Whitfield, and an adjoining junior suite for Mrs. Simone Whitfield and her family. We have the crib request noted. I stepped forward, clutching my bag a little tighter. Hi, I said to the concierge. There should be a third room, Monique Whitfield. Her fingers tapped across the keyboard, her smile dimmed slightly. Let me check, perhaps under a separate booking. It should be with their reservation, I said, feeling the knot in my stomach tighten. She tried again, then looked up with real regret. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I've searched every way I can. There are only 2 suites under the Whitfield party. There is no third room. For a moment, the lobby sounds faded. No clinking glasses. No quiet conversation. Just the rushing in my ears. I turned to my family. Simone stared at her nails, a small satisfied smile on her lips. Ryan's mouth curved in a mean little smirk. My mother suddenly found the marble floor pattern fascinating. My father stood with his hands behind his back, staring out the window like he hadn't heard a thing. He had. He just chose silence. Lorraine finally spoke, her voice light and performative, just loud enough for the concierge to hear. Oh, Monique, honey, I assumed you'd book your own room. This trip is terribly expensive, and you're 32 now. We figured you'd want to handle your own arrangements. Handle my own arrangements. After 15 years of them, booking everything together. My father still didn't turn around. His voice came sharp and cold. We had to prioritize Simone and Ryan. He said, "They're a family. They have Jadden. They need the space. You're just one person. You can manage. You're just one person. You're alone." The concierge, uncomfortable, lowered her voice. "We do have a few rooms left," she said. "Either a standard room with a parking lot view, or the presidential suite. That one is $5,000 a night." She clearly expected me to ask about the cheap one. Before I could answer, Simone exploded into loud, delighted laughter. "Oh my God, Mo," she said, leaning on Ryan as if she might fall over. "This is what I meant when I said you're too literal." She stepped closer, eyes glinting. "Mom and Dad booked rooms for the family. My family, me, Ryan, and Jadden, we're a real family. We need the extra space." Ryan nodded solemnly. "Kids just come with more requirements," he said. "Someone like you. You're flexible. I'm sure there's a Motel 6 down the road. They're perfectly adequate." He actually smiled. "We'll text you the address." It hit harder than any slap. They weren't just forgetting me. They were discarding me, publicly. My mother leaned in, hissing, "Don't make a scene. You're embarrassing us. Just take a standard room, and don't ruin the vacation over a small mix-up." A small mix-up. Something inside me, stretched thin for 32 years, finally snapped. But not the screaming, crying kind of snap. Something colder, cleaner. I straightened my shoulders and turned away from all of them. "Ma'am," I said to the concierge, voice clear and steady. "You said you had 2 rooms left. The parking lot view and the presidential suite." "Yes," she said carefully. "But as I mentioned, the presidential suite is $5,000 per night." "The presidential suite," I repeated. "I'll take it for 3 nights." The lobby went silent. I reached into my bag and pulled out a sleek, weighty black metal card. It hit the marble counter with a solid, unmistakable sound. The American Express Centurion. The black card. The pity in the concierge's face vanished, replaced by sharp, respectful attention. "Of course, Ms. Whitfield," she said quickly. "My apologies. We'll have an attendant escort you to your suite." Behind me, I heard Simone choke on her own breath. Ryan's smugness disintegrated. My mother stared, but it was my father's reaction that I felt the most. He turned just enough to see the card. The color drained from his face. He knew exactly what it was. The card he'd bragged about being on the list for, the one he never got, and his failure daughter had just dropped it without blinking. I signed the receipt. "One more thing," I said. "Please have a private car ready. I've changed my plans." "Yes, Ms. Whitfield." I picked up my bag, then turned to my family. Their faces were a study in shock. "You were right," I told them calmly. "I don't want to complicate your vacation or take space from the real family. So I'll get out of your way." My father hissed, "Stop this performance. You're embarrassing us." I actually laughed. "No," I said. "What's embarrassing is telling your daughter there's no room for her, then suggesting she find a Motel 6. I turned and walked away, heels echoing on marble. I didn't look back when my phone started buzzing with their frantic calls. I stepped through the glass doors into the humid South Carolina air just as a black Maybach S-Class pulled to the curb. The driver stepped out and opened the back door with a nod. "Good evening, Ms. Whitfield. Mr. Thorne is waiting for you at the villa." I slid into the car without a word. As we pulled away, I let the resort, and 32 years of begging for scraps of their approval, shrink in the rear window. They thought they'd finally put the family failure in her place. They had no idea I was the only one who'd soon be able to save them. The Maybach slipped away from the resort like a shadow, through gates I'd never known existed and down a private road lined with moss-draped trees. 20 minutes later, we emerged at a cliffside villa that made my family's luxury. Suites looked like budget hotels. Glass, stone, dark wood, an infinity pool that blended into the Atlantic. It didn't just sit on the land, It commanded it. The driver opened my door. Welcome, MS Whitfield. I walked through the open-air living room, the sea breeze drifting through. On the terrace by the pool stood Marcus Thorne, 45, calm, understated. In a dark blue shirt and linen trousers, he looked more like a professor than a billionaire CEO. When he saw me, his face softened into something my parents had never worn for me, genuine warmth. There you are, he said, holding out a glass of red wine. Judging from your expression, I take it the family reunion was not a success. I let out a harsh little laugh and sat. They didn't book me a room, I said. Suggested I hit a Motel 6. Marcus nodded, unsurprised. They still think you're a low-paid charity worker at Tech for Hope. To them, that's all I'll ever be, I said quietly, the soft, naive daughter with the bleeding heart and the embarrassing salary. He tilted his head. They still don't know. 6 years ago, when they were celebrating Simone's 6-figure wedding, I was in a cramped garage in Palo Alto with Marcus, surrounded by whiteboards and takeout containers. Together, we'd built Oritech, a secure AI logistics platform that governments and Fortune 500s now depended on. Tech for Hope, the little charity they mocked, was our foundation, our philanthropic arm. The piece of the empire I loved the most. I wasn't some middle manager. I was Oritech's co-founder and CTO. The M in the anonymous M, Thorne, all the tech blogs speculated about. Our latest valuation, $2 billion. My stake, 40%. My family had no idea, because I'd never told them. I was going to. I admitted, staring at the ocean, on this trip, I thought. Maybe if I told them everything, showed them what I've built, maybe Dad would finally look at me with something like pride. Marcus watched me carefully. I wanted to know if they could be proud of me without the money. I said, without the title, just proud of me, Monique, the daughter. I shook my head. Tonight was my answer. My phone lit up on the table again. Mom, Dad, Simone. Flashing one after the other in angry succession, I powered it off. We spent the evening at the Tides, the only 3-star Michelin restaurant on the island. Marcus had, of course, secured the best table. The room was small, intimate, open to the beach. We talked strategy like other people talk weather, Frankfurt expansion, regulatory hurdles, optimizing my new logistics algorithm to cut processing time by 30%. Halfway through my scallops, I felt it, the prickle of someone staring. Reflected in the glass wall, I saw them, Simone and Ryan, crammed at a small table near the service door. They hadn't come for the food. They'd come to spy. They stared, shameless, at my dress, at Marcus, at the ease between us, at the way the staff treated us like people who mattered. I ignored them and kept talking, but Simone couldn't. Her shadow fell over our table. She stood there shaking, fingers white, knuckled on the back of a chair. Ryan hovered behind her, uncomfortable. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, Mo, she hissed, too low for the rest of the room, but loud enough for me. But it ends now. You're making a fool of yourself and making us sick with worry. I set down my fork, wiped my mouth, and looked up slowly. A game, I said. You mean when you left me standing in a lobby with no room and told me to find a Motel 6? Before she could reply, Marcus rose smoothly to his feet. You must be Simone, he said, offering his hand, voice calm and warm. I'm Marcus Thorne. I've heard a lot about you. His presence rattled her. She wasn't used to men like my father being polite to me, let alone men like Marcus. She ignored his hand. So this is your boss, she sneered. The one paying for all this. How much does he pay you to act like this, Mo? Is the black card part of the employee perks? Marcus let out a quiet, incredulous breath. You've misunderstood, he said gently. Monique doesn't work for me. She and I started Oritech together. He paused, letting the words land. I'm the CEO, he continued. But she's the CTO, the brain, Every algorithm, every system, every major contract. We built all of that together. I'm just the guy in the suit. Simone's face drained of color. CTO, she croaked, you're lying. She jabbed a finger at me. She couldn't even get into an Ivy League. Dad had to pull strings to get her into state. She's always been the failure. I took a calm sip of wine. You're half right. I said, I didn't go Ivy. That was you and your brown acceptance party. I let my voice stay light, almost conversational. I went to MIT, I said, computer science and AI, graduated with honors. You don't remember. Everyone was busy choosing napkin colors for your wedding. The table behind Simone went quiet. Ryan's eyes went wide. I kept my work private. I said, eyes never leaving hers, because I needed to know if my family could love me without a balance sheet attached. Whether my father could see me, not my net worth. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. Thanks for clearing that up for me at the check-in desk. Marcus added, almost lazily, we closed a new defense contract recently. The valuation just came in. Oritex at $1. $2 billion. Monique owns 40%. B billion. Simone stammered. Her knees buckled. She grabbed a chair. I set my glass down. Now, I said quietly, why don't you head back to your table? You can tell Mom and Dad all about the sister you sent to Motel 6. They left in a daze. Later that night in my father's suite, Simone and Ryan would spill everything. IT, Oritex, the valuation. Charles would smash a glass against a wall. Lorraine would sob that they'd told their billionaire daughter she wasn't part of the real family. And the next morning, on the deck of Oritex yacht, my father finally called. His voice oozed fake warmth. Monique, sweetheart, we've been worried sick. Ryan told us everything. We are so proud of you. So proud. Are you proud of me? I asked quietly, or proud of my $1? $2 billion. Silence. Then a clumsy backpedal. Offers of a party in my honor at the resort. Friends, champagne, a big show of parental pride. No, thank you. I said, I'm not celebrating with people who abandoned me in a lobby yesterday. The mask dropped. His voice turned raw. Finally, the truth, his business in shambles, accounts frozen, debts called in. I need a loan, sweetheart. He said, a big one. You're my daughter. You can help. There it was. He wasn't calling to apologize. He was calling the bank. When I hung up, my hands were still shaking when Marcus' satellite phone rang. His face hardened as he listened. Mo, he said finally, eyes serious. There's been an accident at the resort. It's Jadden. He fell from a balcony. He's alive for now, but it's bad. The woman they'd tried to exile to Motel 6 was about to become the only lifeline they had. The drive to Hilton Head Hospital was a blur of sirens in my head and silence in the car. Marcus made calls the whole way, short, tight, efficient. I stared straight ahead, gripping my hands till my knuckles ached. Accident, balcony, 3 years old, my nephew. Inside the emergency department, harsh fluorescent lights and the smell of antiseptic hit me like a wall. My family sat in a private waiting nook, torn apart. Lorraine's perfect linen dress was wrinkled and stained with tears. She clutched Simone, who was folded into herself, ugly, crying, her face swollen. Ryan paced like a trapped animal, hair disheveled, muttering no, over and over. My father, always towering, always in control, was slumped against a wall, ashen and hollow. Lorraine saw me first, Monique. She sobbed, springing up. Oh, thank God you're here, Jadden. But Simone's wailing cut off like someone had hit mute. She peeled herself from my mother, lifted her head, and when her eyes met mine, they hardened into something vicious. You, she whispered. The word dripped poison. Before I could speak, she lunged, Ryan barely catching her arm. What are you doing here? She screamed. Did you come to gloat, to watch us suffer? Simone, my father rasped, stop, not now. She ignored him. This is your fault. She shrieked, jabbing a finger at me. All of this, you did this. The room spun for a heartbeat, my fault. I said quietly. I wasn't even there. Her words tumbled out in sobbing fragments. After my father's call to beg me for money, there'd been a blow-up in the suite. Yelling, accusations, panic about my secret fortune. Ryan and Simone, suffocating in the tension, decided to take just 10 minutes to walk on the beach, leaving Jadon with my parents, who were too busy arguing about me, my refusal, my money, to watch him. He climbed. She choked over the balcony rail. We weren't there. They weren't watching because of you, because you upset them if you hadn't called. This never would have happened. She staggered closer, eyes wild, voice breaking. You killed my son, she spat. I felt the words like a blade. Simone wasn't just grieving. She was desperate to put her guilt somewhere else, anywhere else. Before I could answer, the trauma doors hissed open, and a doctor in blue scrubs stepped out, mask hanging loose around his neck. Family of Jadon Whitfield, we surged toward him. Ryan, my father, Lorraine. I stood back with Marcus, heart hammering. He's alive, the doctor said. We've stabilized him for now, but he has a severe traumatic brain injury and a high cervical spinal fracture. It's very serious. Ryan's voice cracked. So operate, fix it, we'll pay whatever it costs. The doctor's face twisted with frustration. It's not that simple. This hospital isn't equipped for this kind of pediatric spinal surgery. There are maybe a handful of surgeons in the country who specialize in this level of spine trauma in children. He hesitated. The best is Dr. Alistair Reed at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. Then we'll get him there. Ryan snapped. Helicopter, plane, whatever. To move your son. The doctor said gently, we need a fully equipped pediatric critical care flight. And Dr. Reed's procedure is considered experimental and out of network. Hopkins won't even schedule the war, and the medevac company won't start their engines without full payment up front. He swallowed. That means an estimated $5 million prepaid. Silence. Lorraine made a strangled sound. 1.5 million. The doctor nodded. Roughly $200 0 for the flight and ICU team. Around $1. 3 million for the specialized surgery and postoperative care. Ryan turned to my father. Charles, he whispered, face white. You can do that, right? You said the business was fine. My father looked like he was being peeled open. The accounts are frozen. He said hoarsely, I don't have that kind of liquid cash. Not today, not in hours. Hours, Simone gasped. The doctor's jaw tightened. We don't have days swelling in the spinal cord like this. We're talking maybe 3-4 hours before the damage becomes permanent. Simone slid down the wall, sobbing, her makeup streaking wildly. Ryan punched the drywall so hard it cracked. Lorraine clung to them both, whispering desperate prayers, and then Simone's head snapped up. Her gaze found me. I saw the exact second the pieces clicked. The Maybach, the villa, the Centurion card, the $1 billion valuation. You, she breathed. She didn't walk to me. She crawled, on her hands and knees, across cold hospital tile, expensive dress dragging behind her. She grabbed the hem of my pants with both hands like I was the last piece of driftwood in a storm. Monique, she sobbed, voice shredded. Please, you have to help. You have that card. You have the money. You can pay them. You can save my son. Ryan stumbled over too, eyes wild. We'll pay you back, he rasped. I swear, somehow, just, please. Behind them, my parents watched their golden child on the floor at my feet, begging the daughter they'd abandoned in a lobby less than 24 hours earlier. Their shame was almost a physical thing in the air. For the first time in my life, I held all the power in that family, and I felt nothing, no triumph, no satisfaction, just a tired kind of clarity. I gently uncurled Simone's fingers from my leg and stepped past her. Doctor, I said, stopping in front of him. My voice was steady. You said you can't move the boy safely. So don't. Move the surgeon instead. He blinked. Excuse me. What if, I repeated, you didn't move Jadon? What if you brought Dr. Reed and his full team, and their gear, here? He stared at me like I'd suggested teleportation. MS Whitfield, that would mean mobilizing a private surgical team, a jet, millions of dollars in equipment. The logistics alone, who could possibly— Marcus, I said. He was already dialing. Alistair, it's Marcus Thorne. He said when the line picked up. I'm with our CTO Monique Whitfield, her 3. Your old nephew just suffered a severe cervical spinal injury. Hilton Head General can't handle it. We need you and your team in South Carolina within hours. He listened, then nodded once. Our G700 will be wheels up to Baltimore in 30 minutes. Have your team and equipment at your private hangar. We'll have a secure or waiting here. He ended the call and turned to the doctor. Oritex Gulfstream G700 is en route to pick up Dr. Reid and his team, Marcus said, shifting into full CEO mode. They'll be airborne within an hour and here roughly 90 minutes after that. Oritex will cover all costs. You won't see a bill. The doctor gaped for half a second, then snapped back into motion. I'll inform the ICU, he said, already backing through the double doors. My family stared at me as if I'd suddenly turned into someone else. Lorraine's voice shook. He called you CTO. She whispered, you're really. I met her eyes. Yes, Mom, I said. I'm really the CTO. I've really been taking care of myself all these years. Alone. I looked at Simone, still on the floor, mascara streaked, trembling, her world shattered. And you were right too. I said quietly, we're not a real family. A real family doesn't leave their daughter in a hotel lobby and tell her to find a Motel 6. I walked away from them and stood at the window facing the helipad, watching the empty sky where the incoming jet would soon appear. Not for them, for Jadon, the only innocent one in the whole mess. They sobbed and whispered and shifted behind me. I didn't turn around. Hours later, a helicopter would land. Dr. Reid would stride through the doors with his team and equipment, flown in on my company's jet. Jadon would go into surgery with the best chance any child could have. Whether my family would ever walk the same way again, emotionally or literally, was another story, but for me, the lesson was finished. I had spent my life chasing their approval, bending myself into smaller and smaller shapes to fit their idea of success. Yet the moment my worth became undeniable in the one language they respected, money, they tried to cash it in, not to love me, but to use me. In the end, my worth was never theirs to define. So here's the truth, yourself. Worth cannot depend on people who refuse to see you. The ones who mock your dreams, belittle your work, or call you a failure, will happily crawl to you the moment they need what only you can give. Be kind. Be generous if your conscience leads you there. But remember this, the disappointment they laugh at today may be the only one who can save them tomorrow. Don't live your life trying to earn a place at a table that was never set for you. Build your own. And if they ever come knocking, make sure you know exactly who you are before you open the door.